The divorce papers arrived on Mia's worst day, the same day she buried her grandmother in the rain. Jaden didn't even have the decency to hand them to her himself. His lawyer showed up at the funeral, a sharp-suited man with cold eyes, and pressed the manila envelope into her trembling hands while mourners watched in horror. Mia stood there in her black dress, mascara running down her cheeks, and read the words that shattered what was left of her heart. Petitioner seeks dissolution of marriage with no financial obligation to respondent or any future offspring. He wanted out, clean, no strings, no child support, nothing. Because Mia was 8 months pregnant with his daughter. If this story already has your heart racing, imagine what happens next. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. You won't believe how this unfolds. Now back to Mia's story. The marriage had lasted 3 years. 3 years of Mia bending herself into shapes she didn't recognize, trying to be the wife Jaden wanted. She'd quit her job as a teacher because he said his real estate career was taking off and he needed her support. She'd moved away from her friends because he said they were toxic and held her back. She'd stopped calling her grandmother every Sunday because he complained that Mia paid more attention to that old woman than to him. Mia had loved him so completely that she'd lost herself in the process. And now, standing in a cemetery with rain soaking through her dress and a baby kicking inside her belly, she understood the truth. Jaden had never loved her at all. He'd loved what she could do for him, how she made him look, the way she organized his life and stroked his ego and never asked for anything in return. But a baby would cost money. A baby would take attention away from him. A baby would mean 18 years of legal obligation. So he'd filed for divorce while she was planning a funeral. Mia's hands shook as she read the rest. He claimed they'd grown apart, that the relationship had run its course, that he wished her all the best but saw no viable path forward together. There was no mention of their daughter, no acknowledgement that in 4 weeks Mia would give birth to a child who had his eyes and his stubborn chin, no recognition that he was abandoning them both. Just cold, legal language designed to protect his bank account. "Ma'am," the lawyer's voice cut through her shock, "I need you to sign the acknowledgement of receipt." Mia looked up at him. Behind her, she could hear her few remaining friends whispering in outrage. Her grandmother's casket sat 10 feet away, covered in white roses. "Get out," Mia said quietly. "Ma'am, I'm just doing my." "Get out." Her voice didn't rise, but something in her tone made the lawyer take a step back. "Before I have you removed from this cemetery." He left the papers on the wet grass and disappeared. Mia stood there until the rain stopped, until the other mourners drifted away, until it was just her and her grandmother's grave and the future she'd have to face alone. The next 4 weeks were a blur of survival. Mia's grandmother had left her a small house in Ohio, the same house where Mia had spent summers as a child, learning to bake pies and listening to stories about resilience and strength. It wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, creaky floors, a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon even after all these years. But it was hers, and it was shelter. She moved in with 3 suitcases and a crib she'd bought at a thrift store. Jaden had taken everything else, the furniture, the wedding gifts, even the photos from their honeymoon. He'd cleared out their apartment while she was at the funeral, leaving her nothing but a note that said, "This is better for both of us." Mia didn't cry anymore. She'd run out of tears. Instead, she painted the small second bedroom a soft yellow. She washed tiny onesies and folded them with shaking hands. She read books about single motherhood and tried not to think about how terrified she was. At night, lying in her grandmother's old bed, she'd press her hands to her belly and whisper promises to her daughter. "I'll be enough for you, I promise. You won't need him, we'll be okay." But deep down, Mia wondered if she was lying. Lily was born on a Tuesday morning in October, perfect and pink and screaming with outrage at the world. Mia held her daughter for the first time and felt something crack open inside her chest, not breaking, but expanding. A love so fierce and huge and overwhelming that it hurt to breathe. "Hi, baby girl," Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm your mama, and I'm going to give you everything." She meant it, every word. There was no call from Jaden, no text, no flowers or card or acknowledgement that he'd become a father. Mia's phone stayed silent except for the occasional message from her lawyer, asking if she wanted to pursue child support. "No," Mia told her every time. "I don't want anything from him." Pride, maybe, but also something deeper. She didn't want Lily tied to a man who hadn't wanted her. She didn't want Jaden to have any claim, any leverage, any reason to show up in their lives and cause damage. Better to struggle alone than to invite that poison in. So Mia did what women have done for generations. She figured it out. She got a job waitressing at a diner, working split shifts around Lily's naps. She stretched every dollar until it screamed. She shopped at second-hand stores and made meals from rice and beans and learned to cut her own hair. She accepted help from the few friends she'd reconnected with, casseroles and hand-me-down baby clothes and offers to babysit. It wasn't easy. Some nights, Mia would sit on her kitchen floor after Lily fell asleep, exhausted and overwhelmed and wondering how people did this. How single mothers everywhere managed to survive this impossible juggling act of love and worry and never enough time or money. But every morning, Lily would wake up smiling, and Mia would find the strength to do it all over again. 5 years passed like that. 5 years of Lily growing from a baby into a bright, curious little girl with wild curls and a laugh that sounded like music. 5 years of Mia building a life from nothing, getting promoted to shift manager at the diner, taking online classes at night, slowly paying down debt, and building something that felt like stability. She heard about Jaden occasionally through mutual acquaintances. He'd gotten remarried to a woman who worked in finance. They lived in a condo downtown. He'd started a new real estate firm. He never asked about Lily, never sent a birthday card or a dollar of support. It was like they didn't exist to him. Mia told herself she was fine with that she and Lily were better off without him, that his absence was a gift, not a wound. Most days she even believed it. Then everything changed. The lawyer showed up on a Wednesday afternoon in March. Mia was in the kitchen making grilled cheese sandwiches for Lily's lunch when the doorbell rang. Through the window, she could see a woman in an expensive suit standing on her porch, holding a briefcase. Something about the sight made Mia's stomach drop. "Can I help you?" Mia asked, opening the door just a crack. "Mia Reynolds. My name is Catherine Westbrook. I'm a partner at Westbrook and Associates. May I come in? This concerns your grandmother, Alina Chen." The name hit Mia like a slap. She hadn't heard her grandmother's full name spoken aloud in years. "What about her?" "It's complicated. May I please come inside?" Mia hesitated, then opened the door. Lily peeked around the corner, curious, and Mia gave her a reassuring smile. "Go play in your room for a minute, sweetie. I need to talk to this lady." Once Lily disappeared, Mia turned to Catherine. "What's this about?" Catherine set her briefcase on the coffee table and opened it, pulling out a thick folder. "Ms. Reynolds, were you aware that your grandmother had family in Taiwan?" Vaguely. She came to America when she was young. I never met any of her relatives." "I see. Well, this may come as a shock, but your grandmother was the estranged daughter of Chen Wei-long, one of Taiwan's most successful technology manufacturers. When he died 3 years ago, his estate went to his son, your grandmother's brother. That man passed away 6 months ago. The estate has been in probate, and after extensive genealogical research, you've been identified as the sole surviving heir." The words didn't make sense. Mia shook her head. "I don't understand." "Ms. Reynolds," Catherine's voice was gentle, "you've inherited your great-uncle's estate. The total value after taxes and fees is approximately $500 billion. The room tilted. That's not possible. I have all the documentation here. Bank statements, property deeds, stock portfolios, business holdings. It's real. And it's yours. Mia sat down before her legs gave out. $500 billion. The number was so large it didn't feel real. It felt like a mistake, like someone had added too many zeros, like at any moment Catherine would laugh and say she'd meant 500,000 or 5,000 or 50. I don't. Mia's voice came out as a whisper. Why didn't my grandmother ever say anything? According to the family history we've uncovered, there was a significant falling out. Your grandmother left Taiwan to marry your grandfather against her family's wishes. She was disowned. It appears she chose to live simply and never reconnected with them, even after your grandfather passed away. That sounded like Grandma Leaner, proud, stubborn, content with her little house and her garden and her Sunday phone calls with Mia. What do I need to do? Sign some papers, work with our firm to manage the transition. Ms. Reynolds, this is going to change your life. Are you ready for that? Mia thought about the grilled cheese getting cold in the kitchen, about her shift at the diner tonight, about the electric bill she'd been worried about paying. I don't know, she said honestly. The news broke 3 weeks later. Mia had tried to keep it quiet, but when someone goes from working at a diner to inheriting $500 billion, people notice. The story hit local news first, then national, then international. Ohio single mother inherits massive fortune. From waitress to billionaire overnight. The accidental heiress, America's newest rich woman. Reporters camped outside her house. Her phone rang constantly. Strangers showed up claiming to be long-lost friends or distant relatives. Everyone wanted a piece of her, wanted her money, wanted her story. Mia moved Lily to a secure location, a beautiful house in a gated community that felt too big and too empty, but at least gave them privacy. She hired security. She hired financial advisors and lawyers and accountants. She set up trusts and foundations, and started making plans for what to do with money so vast she couldn't begin to comprehend it. Through it all, she didn't hear from Jaden. Not a congratulations, not a reaching out, nothing. Mia told herself she was relieved. The lawsuit arrived on Lily's 6th birthday. Mia was planning a party, the kind of party she'd always dreamed of giving her daughter but couldn't afford before. Bouncy castle, pony rides, a magician, 30 of Lily's classmates running around the backyard in a chaos of joy. The process server handed her the papers right as the birthday cake was being carried out. Jaden Parker versus Mia Reynolds, petition for paternity establishment and equitable distribution. Mia's blood turned to ice. She read the filing in her bedroom while Lily sang downstairs, surrounded by friends. Read it twice to make sure she understood. Jaden was suing her. He claimed he'd never legally relinquished his parental rights, that despite the divorce, he was still Lily's biological father, that he deserved equitable consideration now that Mia had come into substantial assets. He was demanding 50% of her inheritance, $250 billion. For a daughter he'd never met, never held, never sent a birthday card to or asked about or acknowledged in any way for 6 years. The rage that filled Mia was unlike anything she'd ever felt. This story is about to reach the moment you've been waiting for. But before we get there, do us a favor. Drop a like if you're as angry as Mia right now and comment below where you're watching from. Let's see how many countries are following this journey. Now, let's finish this. The courthouse was cold. Mia sat at a long table with her legal team, 3 lawyers who'd cost more in a week than she used to make in a year. Across the aisle, Jaden sat with his own attorney, looking older than she remembered but still handsome in an expensive suit. He didn't look at her, not once. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia O'Brien, reviewed the case files with a frown. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Mr. Parker. You're seeking financial compensation from Ms. Reynolds based on parental rights you made no attempt to exercise for 6 years. Jaden's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client was unaware of Ms. Reynolds' changed financial circumstances. Had he known, Had he known she was rich, he'd have cared about his daughter. Judge O'Brien's voice was sharp. Is that what you're telling me? Your Honor, my client has rights as a biological parent. Rights he actively rejected. The judge held up a document. I have the divorce petition here, filed by Mr. Parker, specifically requesting no financial obligation to respondent or any future offspring. That's a direct quote. Mia watched Jaden shift in his seat, uncomfortable. Additionally, Judge O'Brien continued, I have 6 years of documentation showing zero contact, zero support, zero involvement. No birthday cards, no Christmas presents, no child support payments. Nothing. And now, conveniently after Ms. Reynolds inherits a fortune, Mr. Parker has discovered his paternal instincts. Your Honors, I'm not finished. The judge's eyes were cold. What you're attempting, Mr. Parker, is transparent and frankly disgusting. You abandoned your daughter to avoid financial responsibility. You made a calculated choice to remove yourself from her life completely. And now you expect to profit from that abandonment. Jaden finally spoke, his voice defensive. I have rights. She's my biological child. You gave up those rights. Mia's voice cracked through the courtroom before she could stop herself. Her lawyer touched her arm in warning, but Mia was past caring. You don't get to show up now. You don't get to pretend you care. You wanted nothing to do with Lily when she wouldn't benefit you, and now you think you deserve her inheritance. It's not about the money, Jaden started. It's only about the money, Mia stood, shaking. You didn't want to be a father. You made that clear. So don't stand there and lie and say this is about Lily. This is about you being greedy and cruel and thinking you can manipulate the system because you share her DNA. Ms. Reynolds, please sit down, Judge O'Brien said, not unkindly. Mia sat, but her hands were trembling. The judge looked at Jaden for a long moment. Mr. Parker, I'm going to tell you something, and I hope you hear it. Parenting is not about genetics. It's about showing up. It's about 3 a.m. fevers and scraped knees and homework help and 1,000 small moments of care. It's about choosing every single day to be present in a child's life. You didn't do any of that. You actively chose the opposite. And now you want the rewards without having done the work. Your Honor, legally. Legally, you might have an argument in a different situation. But this isn't that situation. You have 6 years of documented abandonment. You have your own divorce petition explicitly rejecting financial responsibility for any children. And you have a daughter who, according to the documentation Ms. Reynolds has provided, doesn't even know your name. That hit Jaden. Mia saw it in his face, a flash of something that might have been shame. I'm dismissing this case, Judge O'Brien said firmly. With prejudice, meaning Mr. Parker cannot refile. Furthermore, I'm granting Ms. Reynolds sole legal and physical custody of the minor child, with no visitation rights for Mr. Parker unless he can demonstrate, through supervised sessions and counseling, a genuine interest in parenting rather than profiting. The court finds his current petition to be without merit and brought in bad faith. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, voices shouted questions. Mia, how do you feel about the ruling? Will you pursue a restraining order against your ex-husband? What are you going to do with the inheritance? Mia's security team pushed through the crowd, but she paused at the top of the courthouse steps. Behind her, she could see Jaden being led away by his lawyer, his face tight with anger. She thought about everything she'd been through. The funeral where she'd been served divorce papers, the years of struggling and scraping by, the nights she'd cried into her pillow, exhausted and afraid, the strength she'd found in herself that she never knew existed. And she thought about Lily, beautiful, bright Lily, who would grow up knowing she was wanted and loved and enough exactly as she was. Mia turned to the cameras. I want to say something to every single parent out there who's doing this alone, to everyone who's been abandoned or betrayed or told they weren't enough. You are enough. Your love is enough. And nobody gets to show up later and take credit for the life you built from nothing. Her voice was steady, strong, unafraid. As for what I'm doing with the inheritance, I'm setting up a foundation for single parents, for legal aid, housing assistance, childcare, education, because I know what it's like to do everything right and still struggle. And I know that there are millions of parents out there right now who need help, not judgment. The reporters erupted with more questions, but Mia was done. She walked down the steps, climbed into the waiting car, and went home to her daughter. That evening, Mia and Lily sat in their new house's garden, watching the sunset. "Mama," Lily asked, leaning against Mia's side, "why were you gone all day?" "I had to talk to some people about boring grown-up stuff." "Did you fix it?" Mia smiled, pulling her daughter close. "Yeah, baby, I fixed it." "Good," Lily yawned. "Can we have pancakes for dinner?" "We can have anything you want." And it was true. They could have anything, go anywhere, do anything. The inheritance had given them freedom and security and options beyond imagining. But sitting there with Lily's warm weight against her side, Mia realized something important. She'd already had everything that mattered. The money didn't change who they were to each other. It didn't change the bond they'd built through hard times. It didn't change the fact that they were a family, complete and whole and enough. Jaden had tried to take that from them, had tried to reduce their relationship to dollar signs and legal claims. But he'd failed. Because you can't claim love you never gave. You can't demand respect you never earned. And you can't show up after 6 years of silence and expect to profit from someone else's sacrifice. "Mama," Lily's sleepy voice interrupted her thoughts. "I love you. I love you too, baby girl, more than anything in the whole world." Above them, stars were starting to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the city, Jaden was probably angry, plotting his next move, figuring out another angle. Mia didn't care. Let him try. Let him sue and scheme and manipulate. She had the best lawyers money could buy now. She had resources and power and the ability to protect her daughter from anything. But more than that, she had something Jaden would never understand. She had chosen Lily every single day for 6 years. Through exhaustion and fear and uncertainty, she'd chosen love. That was worth more than $500 billion. That was worth everything. The foundation launched 6 months later. Mia called it a Leaner's Promise, after her grandmother. It provided legal assistance to single parents fighting for custody or child support. It offered housing grants and childcare subsidies. It funded education programs and job training. It helped thousands of people who were exactly where Mia had been, desperate and alone, and trying to build something from nothing. The work was fulfilling in a way Mia had never expected. She met parents who were fighting battles she recognized. She heard stories that broke her heart and inspired her. She learned that her experience wasn't unique, that all over the country, parents were being abandoned and left to struggle while their exes walked away free. She made it her mission to change that. And slowly she did. The foundation grew. Other wealthy donors joined in. Laws started to change, making it harder for parents to abandon their children without consequence. The conversation shifted. Mia became known not as the waitress who inherited billions, but as the woman who's changing lives. That felt right. As for Jaden, he faded into irrelevance. His new wife left him when the lawsuit failed. His business struggled. He tried to sell his story to tabloids, but no one wanted to hear from a man who'd abandoned his child and then sued for profit. Mia never spoke his name again. On Lily's 10th birthday, Mia took her daughter to visit Grandma Alina's grave. They brought flowers, white roses, Alina's favorite. Lily, now a confident, brilliant fourth grader with her mother's determination and her own fierce spirit, placed them carefully on the headstone. "Hi, great-grandma," Lily said softly. "I wish I'd met you. Mama says you were really strong and really kind, like her." Mia's throat tightened. "She says you taught her that family isn't about who shares your blood, it's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you every day." Lily looked up at Mia, her eyes, Jaden's eyes, though she didn't know it, bright and curious. "Is that true, Mama?" "It's the truest thing I know," Mia said. They stood there for a while, 3 generations of women connected by love and resilience, and the quiet strength that gets passed down through stories and sacrifice. Alina had left Taiwan with nothing but courage, had built a life, had taught her granddaughter that you could survive anything if you had love and determination. Mia had taken those lessons and carried them through the hardest years of her life, had passed them on to Lily. And someday, Lily would teach them to her own children. That was the real inheritance, not the money, though it helped, not the fame or the power or the security, but the knowledge that you could lose everything and still be whole, that you could be betrayed and still choose trust, that you could be abandoned and still build a family. That was what Alina had left her. That was what Mia was leaving Lily. And no lawsuit, no ex-husband, no amount of money or absence or pain could ever take it away. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or made you angry at the injustice of it all, we need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button so hard it breaks. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Let's build a community of people who believe that love and loyalty matter more than money. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, because Mia's fight isn't over. There are thousands of stories like hers happening right now, and together we can make sure they end in justice. Comment below, where are you watching from? Let's see how far this message travels. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.